Yo, what up, folks? This is Rodney Farrell, the CEO of Farrell Development Group, and you're listening to the E.I.T.H.R podcast, hosted by D.Cal. Let's get it.
So, let's start with the E.I.T.H.R.
You're listening to the E.I.T.H.R podcast with D.Cal.
UBZs best recognize when a real one speaks, spitting nothing but facts and gospel. You're listening to the E.I.T.H.R with D.Cal. For Sheezy, he be the truth.
And happy Friday evening, everybody. My boy D.Cal with the E.I.T.H.R podcast. Episode number 6. Yo, to tell you the truth, kind of getting the hang of this podcast thing. And I just want to say thank you to all the people who subscribe and follow on the social media. You can find us at E.I.T.H.R, E.I.T.H.R, on Instagram. Same handle. You can find us on Twitter. And again, I just want to go ahead and give a shout out to everybody who listens to the podcast, follow the podcast. Seems a few more people than I expected actually likes the sound of my voice. So, looks like I'm doing something right. Want to give a shout out to the sponsors to the podcast as well. Miss Candice Romero. She does the my.doterra.com. Sorry, my.doterra.com. You can check her website out. And I want to give a shout out also to Marissa King. She does Thrive. You can look at her website at www.marissaking, MARISSAKING 4.thrive123.com. Pretty cool products on her website. There's some sleep product that I actually use that helps me out with my anxiety at nighttime. So that's a pretty good plus right there. Sorry about that. Something's going on with my speakers. So we're going to... Got it. All right. Ain't going to let that stop us. So on episode number 3, I believe I wanted to start off each podcast with, some type of encouragement for my listeners to do. I feel like it's very, very important. With this one, when it comes to the youth and dealing with your children, we live in a generation right now where information runs so fast and everything, it moves so quickly. By the time something finishes, literally everybody knows. It's not like it used to be where you had to wait for it to break. Right now, athletes and entertainers and everybody, in essence, they are their very own news source. So they break a lot of information before the traditional media does. So with that said, like I said, information gets put out so quickly. A lot of our youth feel because information, access to it is at their fingertips, they know a lot. Well, there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. See, knowledge is knowing the difference of something, but wisdom is understanding the difference. And a lot of our youth, they don't understand why certain things, they just think it is. And I know when I was younger, if you were to tell me something, my brain would automatically go to try to associate it with what I can relate to and then try to figure out how to solve it. And most of the time when my mother or my father would try to give me some advice, I was just like, I know, because I took the end result of what they were telling me and used whatever experience I had to kind of fill in the blanks. And so when having a conversation with the youth, whether it's your child or another child or somebody else's kid or a group of children or whatnot, and for whatever reason, you feel the message isn't necessarily sitting, or they continue to jump in trying to finish the sentence as if they know what's going on. What I do is simply give people, something to feed on, where I ask them a question like, have you ever seen a 2-hour movie or a 2.5-hour movie? And have you ever tried to explain that? And that person will sit back and say, yeah, I've seen a movie. Who hasn't seen a movie, right? Whether it's at the theaters, at home, is irrelevant. But I ask them, have you ever seen a 2.5-hour movie? 99% of people say yes. Okay. Have you ever tried explaining that movie in 3 minutes? And they kind of look at you like they think they know what you're talking about, but they really don't. You go in and elaborate. It's like, have you ever tried to explain to them how the movie was and this part? And they naturally will relate to, yeah, I've tried explaining a movie in 3 minutes to people. Yeah, it's like, okay, what have you ever, when you try explaining to people, they don't necessarily understand. And the more you give them, the more they try to catch on, but they just don't get it. No matter how passionate you explain the scene or the scenes, no matter how detailed you give it, no matter how animated you become, they just don't grasp it, right? And the person at the end of your description is kind of like, yeah, I mean, it sounds like a cool movie. I mean, yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see it, right? Life is the same exact way, right? When parents try to explain things to their children, you see life as a movie. And certain scenarios that you explain to your kids are scenes in that movie. And within scenes of that movie, there are certain things that set up to that scene, to that movie. And a lot of kids don't really understand that part. And so they're not grasping the emotion and the details that led up to that climactic moment. So try to explain that to them. It's like, listen, when I'm telling you something, you see one scenario because I'm giving you a scenario. And so the scenario that I give you, you're kind of running with that scenario and thinking everything is fine. They don't understand all the other scenes that led up to that part. And in most 2.5-hour movies, usually come from a 100-page book with more details to it. And even some of those details are left for your imagination. So all that said, when you're dealing with somebody, especially the younger crowd, you got to explain to them, like, listen, I know by saying this, you see this, but this, and this can also happen. And then this can spin off with that. So usually when I break that down to people who are younger than me, they understand that part. They're like, okay, it's like a movie. All because it didn't happen like this in your scenario doesn't mean it's not going to happen in the next scenario, right? And everybody swears they have a plan until, like Mike Tyson says, you get punched in the mouth, right? Everybody has a scenario about what they're going to do when something happens. Until something happens, then that plan doesn't work. Then you don't really know what to do because you wasn't prepared for it. So I figure when talking to younger people, you go ahead and kind of get that type of strategy going. It'll make it a little bit easier to relate to them. And I feel, from my experience when doing that, anything when it comes to advice or suggestions or whatever you give them, they have a clearer understanding about that. And they tend to take whatever it is that you're saying and they pay a little bit more attention to it. So just a little food for thought. I thought maybe that would kind of help you guys out with that when dealing with someone who's younger, especially teenagers or younger children who are at home and, they kind of get to the stage in life where they're talking back. So I figured that'll probably help you out. Gas prices. I mean, damn, right? I don't know where everyone is that's listening to the podcast right now, but here in Sacramento, This is breaking it on with the damn music. So I don't know what's going on with my system. There. Here in Sacramento, gas prices is damn near on the cheap end, almost $5.50. And I personally think that's just goddamn ridiculous. Now, there's some parts where I've seen where it's over $6, and that is the cash price. I think a lot of these, I don't know. And before anybody decides to go on a rant about, Biden or anything of that nature, you motherfuckers need to understand something, that it's not the government who's doing that. It's these refineries who are deciding to price gouge everybody and take advantage of and see a weakness right now, and they're jumping all on it. Okay. Not only that, but you got to take in consideration, we're dealing with an economy right now where, hell, man, 3 years, everything kind of been shut down. So everybody's trying to get their money back. So anybody who got an issue with old boy who's running things right now, remember a partner that was before him, he took this whole thing as a joke and said it wasn't serious. And then, X amount of people has died, and people that I know got the COVID and, and all that other fun stuff. So, I think people use the political part as just something to piss other people off, because people like trolling other people. But it's wild, man. I think some of these people need to in the government need to do something, because you're making it very difficult for a lot of the gig workers who need to use a car to work. Like the Postmates and the Grubhubs and the Uber Eats and the DoorDashers and everybody like that, who is using their personal vehicles, man. The money that they're making is going right into the gas tank. And then you already have people who are living check to check, and they're not happy to tip anybody because they don't have any additional disposable income. And that's a whole nother topic. There's a whole nother conversation that people can have about tipping and all that other fun shit. But it's wild. It's just wild. I think more people, carpool if they can. And if anybody listen to the podcast right now, if you are a gig worker, like if you're doing shift or if you're doing some type of shopping gig or delivery gig or whatnot, you might want to look into partnering up with another person, and you guys kind of go and figure out how you can paint a territory together, and make it happen. And if you need to text to communicate your customer and say, hey, this is, so-and-so, I'm door dashing with a buddy today that said gas. So, we're going to, I'm dropping off your order, but, rather we drop his order over here or, the way I used to do it when, Marissa and I used to DoorDash is we would take the food to the first person who got the order. And when we would drop the food off, the other person would go online, and if we both happen to get an order at the same time, we would either depending on where it was, the closest person won, or we would pick up the food and drop them off in the order, like I said, either whoever's closest or whoever got the order first. You can figure it out however you want to, even if you guys want to do it like once a week, twice a week, just something to kind of learn how to beat the system, man. And if you can give your person a little bit of gas money for going the extra route, I'm sure he, she, or they would appreciate that. So just a little suggestion on that. Also kind of want to talk about people giving advice. Advice is cool. Advice is great. Well, usually I don't give people advice. I give people suggestions, because when it comes to advice, nobody really wants to follow the advice. But I think if you give it to them in the form of a suggestion, it's received a little bit differently. On top of that, you want to make sure that whatever advice you're giving somebody, you follow your own advice, right? I myself, I'm just as guilty as this, where I would give advice to people, but I would never really follow my own word, or I would never really follow the word that someone else is giving me. Right? I would give you, but I wouldn't take from you. You know, it was a big issue, and I had to kind of sit back and self-reflect on that. But listen, if you're going to give somebody advice on something, make sure that you follow your own, right? Don't give advice on something that you really can't relate to, because if you don't know how it operates, how it works, the transition, what it feels like, the struggle, the balance of it's hard for those people to even hear anything you have to say. Not only that, but when it comes to giving advice to somebody, make sure you're giving advice to somebody who's actually going to execute it. Because some people, and I knew a few people myself, they would take the advice that you give, but they wouldn't do nothing. They just wanted someone to talk to. And I'm like, damn, bro, if you're that lonely, get a diary. But make sure that you're somebody who also follows suit. Because I feel when you give advice and you follow your own word at the same time, you're somebody with accountability. And you can also look at yourself as somebody who says, listen, I did this. I tried this. I was able to function with this. Here's how it felt for me. Here's what happened with me. Now that person has, somewhat of a blueprint. So they kind of know what to expect when they're going in. Again, some people just want to act like they know more than everybody. So they want to give advice and have the answers to everything except knowing how to solve their own damn problems. So I figured, if you're someone who's going to dish it, make sure you're also someone who can receive it. Advice and positive criticism, not negative criticism. And a lot of people criticize and critique everything in a negative way without even meaning to do it. Like if you bought something, you bought a shirt or you bought a vehicle, or congratulations to my homegirl Carmen, Coach Cruz, right? She got a brand new car. Congratulations, girl, on that. So, prime example. Let's use Carmen. Let's say somebody sees like, oh, girl, your ride is dope. I like that. It's cool. She's juiced. She's excited. She busted her ass to get this car, right? Someone might even realize, like, man, what you should have did, you should have got this color, because this color attracts these people. Now, even though that person possibly meant good intention, what they actually did was they kind of shot her down, because she chose that color. She likes that color. Now, you kind of dumped on her for picking that color. Even though you had reasons for it, it still acts like a knock to some people. And some people feel as if, they're being questioned on the color. Some people might even view you as being a hater, even though you had good intentions on that. So, try to be cautious and careful of people who you take your criticism from. Because some people who are criticizing her about her car are the same motherfuckers who are going to try to hit her up for a ride in that car. Or they're going to take pictures in that car and use those pictures of them in her car as the profile picture, just to get attention, just for the dopamine to kick in, for everyone to talk about them so they can have their 30 seconds of fame. But you'll never be criticized by anybody doing better than you. You'll never be criticized by anyone who's doing better than you. Advice and suggestions is one thing. Criticism is a complete different. Constructive criticism is someone who it takes in consideration what you're doing. Criticism is somebody who's just trying to shit on you because, well, they're miserable. They're not where they at and they want company. We all know the whole thing about misery. So, try to be very careful when you take your criticism of somebody. If they're not progressing in the right direction, why would you even take anything they have to say to heart? It doesn't make any sense, right? So just be very mindful of that. Another thing, this goes out to all my people who are trying to do the best they can with what they got. I mean, it's wild out there. I mean, like I said earlier, gas prices, everything is going up except for the rate of pay. Everything's going up, from stress to just bills, right? There's never enough money at the end of the month. There's always more month than there is money. It's crazy, right? But a lot of people tend to try to emulate the success, but nobody really wants to put in the work to get to it. I used to say, when it came to the athletes, like football players, right? Everybody wants to be in the Sunday league, but nobody wants to practice. Nobody wants to do the drills. Nobody wants to do the weightlifting, right? But they want the highlights. They want the attention, but they don't want to do what it takes behind the scenes. And that's what counts, right? It's those little things that you do that no one sees, but they want to emulate what it is that they see, what's in front of them. So, you kind of got to keep that in mind when people try to mimic that. Listen, it's not easy, y'all. It's a lot of hard work. These people that you see who are out there on television and radio, you don't understand the hours it took for them to get to that point. Like, that shit right there is stressful, and it makes you want to quit. You gotta hold on. You gotta stay tuned to all of that. You just gotta stay focused. It's about being focused and stay tuned. Let's take 30 seconds right here to pay some bills for one of our sponsors. All the struggles and pressures that get in your way, big or small, minor or major. We all are fighting demons others do not know about. But it's how you handle that makes it look easy. Make it look easy apparel. Get your hat, shirt, sweatpants today. Mile.today. MILE.TODAY. Make it look easy. So it's one of those things where when it comes to emulating success, people don't see the 1,000 reps that it took for you to get to that point, for you to lift all those weights for that trophy, for that championship. I just think it's kind of wild that, when people see something successful, they don't really realize how much work it took to get into that success. And then they're not willing to really do that. And that's kind of where a lot of saturation comes in. Talk about the music industry, right? Back in the day, you had to be an artist with some talent and sound different. And you had to put in work for people to get accustomed to your style and make a niche for yourself and to fit into this pocket to where this was you. Nobody sounded like Snoop Dogg back in the day. No one sounded like 50 Cent back in the day. Nobody sounded like Dre back in the day. E.I.T.H.R had his own style. Now everybody sounds like Wayne. Now everybody sounds like Twister. Everyone tries to sound like the next person. And that's not a knock on anything. It just doesn't take as much effort. It doesn't take as much work to differentiate yourself, which is, I think, a reason why the music industry, as an example, is saturated with a bunch of crap. That's why the workplace, very few people get recognized because everyone's kind of doing the same exact thing. I think a lot of people run into same relationships because they're trying to emulate what they see. Everyone tried to emulate Will and Jada, right? Jay-Z and Beyonce. But nobody understands what goes on behind the scene, right? The Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, that trial is kind of putting on blast what goes on that people don't recognize, that people didn't even know existed in relationships, And again, we try to emulate success, but we don't see we just don't get what it is to be successful. All the stress that goes on. And I know a lot of people say, well, successful people, they got a lot of money and I wouldn't have those problems. You got to understand, man, those people don't have the lifestyles you do. They don't. They're not on social media like we are, right? We try to emulate their successes, but we don't put in the kind of work that they did. They didn't put in the sacrifices that they did, which is the reason why there's so many people in this group and very few people in that group. So, if you want to be something, if you want to do something different, you got to do what everyone else isn't doing, right? Because if you do what everyone else is doing, you're going to get what everyone else has got. And that's kind of the difference. And keep this in mind too. If you're somebody who's going to do something a little bit different than everybody else, you have to understand not everyone's going to support you. Not everyone's going to be there for you. Not everyone's going to think it's a good idea. Not everyone's going to help spread the word. Not everyone's going to show up to every event. Not every person's going to, sit back and like every single post, which is fine because you got to understand you're the one who made the decision to do this. They aren't the ones who necessarily amped you up to do it. They gave you the idea that you could do this, but it wasn't their suggestion for you to become, in this supervisory role, in this managerial role, to do an entrepreneurship, to take a chance of becoming a personal trainer or a motivational speaker or a teacher. Some people, they don't have the same vision as you. And if they do, your eyes could cross and you might not be able to see everything clearly as you need to. So you got to understand that most people, they see you as you always have been. They don't necessarily see you as who you're going to become. Matter of fact, you'll get more support from people who don't know you personally than people who you do know who do know you personally, which is kind of funny. But again, it goes back to the people who know you personally. They recognize you from trying multiple different businesses, multiple different opportunities, multiple different jobs, multiple different positions. And, they see you as someone who's always doing something new. But they don't necessarily see you as somebody doing something, for lack of better terms, productive or something with longevity. It doesn't resonate with them in their head. But a person who doesn't know you necessarily, they don't know anything about your past. They just know what's in front of them. And if you're somebody who has a good head on their shoulders and you have the proper vision, people will follow that. So, you got to kind of keep that in mind, especially for all of you who are taking risks out there. Like I said, if you're doing a gig job in today's business economy with gas prices, housing prices, when you're looking to get your own property, not everyone's going to help you with your bills. So you kind of got to keep in mind that you got to make this work. This is on you, right? You got to have a plan and you got to be able to execute that plan. Because again, people know you for who you once were. They don't really know who you are. So that's that. Another thing I wanted to bring up real fast is a lot of people, this is kind of a political thing. So a lot of people make the mistake of expecting government assistance. And for those who do receive government assistance, it's not what it is that you think it is. It's, how should I put it? what we see about those needing help is just a piece of the puzzle. There's a lot of people out there who truly need government assistance who are not receiving it. It's not the government's job to provide anything. It's the government's job to regulate. So when you see people on government assistance, it's not something that's meant to be long-term, even though there are folks who are using it for that reason. The reason why I'm bringing this topic up, because I get pissed off a little bit when I see people blaming the government because of what's going on in the economy. First of all, the government is like the worst type of people to do anything when it comes to taking care of society. The first thing they're going to do is take care of themselves. That's number one. I don't care what anybody says. When push comes to shove, they're going to make sure that them and theirs are taken care of first and foremost. Anybody else, we're drawing straws. If we want to see a difference in the streets, if we want to see a difference in our economy, it takes a village. It takes a village. We have to take the initiative to make the difference that we claim we see or want to see in the world. The government views people as children. We are children to them. We are adolescent teenagers. We are people who have no direction. We're just aimlessly wandering around, and they're the ones who are giving us the guidance. And to them, because they're so out of touch with what's going on with the rest of us, they think, feel, and believe that what they provide, we can survive off of. So when they hear us speak about the problems and the issues and the struggles that we got, that we face, that we deal with, in their mind, we create the problem. We don't know how to manage things. So therefore, they provide what they feel is good enough because they're not in our shoes, right? They live in a world where they drive through and bypass all that shit that we see on a daily basis. We have to be the people who take care of the people that are sitting there screaming, we need to be taken care of, right? I think, feel, and believe if you see a group of homeless people need something to eat, Jaden Smith, like him or not, perfect example of having like a water truck and bringing clean water to people out in Flint, Michigan. I think if the community was to come together one weekend a month, as an example, and go to the park and just have a big barbecue for the neighborhood, I feel that would do more good for anybody than any government assistance could do. Another issue that we have as a society is we don't know how to communicate. We spend so much time in texting and typing, we literally forgot the art of talking. So when we do have conversations with people, we forget and don't recognize certain mannerisms, certain facial expressions, certain social cues that once were pivotal in having a conversation. Now it's like we don't pick up on any of it, right? And then when you're left to text or typing, you interpret what's typed on your screen into the voice or tone you think they mean. And Lord knows, if you've ever text something to your partner, man, that can go sideways quick. I think more people need to, especially antisocial people. I get it. I get the introverts. I understand it. I'm no stranger to it. But I also feel going out every now and then into public and just socializing with a complete stranger, it's practice, right? More people need it. I think a lot more people need it. I think we need to learn how to communicate with people in person. That way the communication over the phone or computers are going to be a little bit less negatively interpreted. I also think being able to relate to other human beings is healthy for us, right? It's healthy. It gets back into the social cues that I said earlier that a lot of us are missing. And I feel that that's something that we're definitely losing as a society. Dealing with the public, I've realized everybody's stressed out. And I feel that if the public was to come together and help one another, it would definitely bring the communities closer like they used to be, from what I've been told by my grandmother back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, where everybody knew everybody. And it made it that much more difficult for the community to have crime because everybody was looking out for one another. I know that sounds cliche. I get that sounds like a fairy tale. I get that sounds kind of made up to some people. But there was once a time where communities looked out for each other. And I feel if we can bring that type of vibe back in today's world, I think it'll be a lot less stress that a lot of people are facing. You know, like I said, when it comes to government assistance, it's cool, but the government is also the kind of people, I'm gonna give you this, but I need you to pay me back, right? Which is kind of funny to me because all the money that the government receives is our money. And another thing that kind of pisses me off is whenever you see like a fundraiser, not a fundraiser, but one of those marathon things where children over here are starving, or you know, these puppies over here don't have a home, or things of that nature, right? They pay $8 million for someone like a celebrity to come and tell you to donate. My thing is, how about if you just took the money you paid that celebrity and you took care of the animal's damn self there? Because everyone's already having a hard time as it is. Why are you advertising for me to donate? when I'm already trying to get to work. I just feel, I just believe that if we as a society were to come together, a lot of this bullshit that we see will just change. Now, there's going to be people who are going to want to ruffle some feathers, and there's going to be people who don't want to see unity. Keep in mind, the government profits off of division. With that said, a lot of the peace and everything that we say we want to see, you have to be aware it's a very boring lifestyle to have that, because there's really no excitement. So the government loves to keep shit stirred because it keeps the economy going. But if you really want to change your neighborhoods, everybody has to clean up their front porch. And we'll have cleaner streets. That's just my take. That's just my little rant. I know it's kind of random. I know it came off the wall, but it's my podcast. I can do what I want to. This is one of my things that I've always thought about was, why don't people do more? Now myself, I'm no guilty. I'm just as guilty when it comes to being antisocial with certain people. But I definitely am more social than most of the people that I do know. And I have no problem in having a conversation with a complete stranger. I think a lot of us need to kind of just stand in the mirror, and some of the things that we get pissed off at people in society, is that also something that we're just as guilty about within ourselves. And if it is, it's definitely something that we need to correct within. So that way, when we project out, it doesn't come off with such a bad reception. So anyway, that's all I got. That's all I got right now for the podcast. I'm definitely looking forward to doing my podcast a little more consistently. Right now, it's kind of just up in the air. Whenever I get to it is when I get to it. But I feel that if I was to be more consistent, I know my numbers will go up. So, but this is literally just a spare of the moment. Let me just grab this, go online real quick, and make it happen. So, if it seemed like it was all over the place, it kind of was, because I was freestyling it. But hey, thank you guys again for the love, for the follows, for the support, for the subscriptions. Social media, at the E.I.T.H.R. You guys have a good weekend, and I'm out.
Hello, my name is Candace Romero, and it has been my absolute privilege and honor to be teaching people about doTERRA's essential oils for the last 9 years and helping people live their most vibrant life. If you'd like to learn more about my natural solutions, please feel free to contact me on Facebook at Bay Area Terra Tribe Essential Oils and Natural Solutions, or check out my website, my.doterra.com/Romero. That's my.doterra.com